Untitled Weapons of Fate. Where do I start? Well, I suppose the most obvious place would be to write a 5-page essay on why bullets can't be curved. Or I could just not, you know. I really hate when professionals go on TV or YouTube to explain why this or that detail of fiction is impossible or silly. Saying curving bullets is impossible is like saying that charging your key up and shooting a Kamehameha to obliterate your opponents is impossible. Whether it's possible or not is irrelevant. It's fiction. It's whether or not said fictional aberration is in service of a good story or a really, really bad story that's important. You can use the curving bullets thing as long as you don't create utter garbage with it. And well... The game starts with its difficulty screen. Naturally, being a 7th generation game, it locks its highest difficulty until you beat it on normal. This is honestly for the better, as playing with a high difficulty on will only make things more tedious.
Once I was clueless and pathetic just like you. Sitting in front of the TV, playing video games, getting fat. I was a loser. But what if one day someone gave you the chance to escape your boring
Learning to put a
world?
bullet between someone's eyes is
Leave
easy.
it all behind and do it.
Shut up!
Hard part is
I said shut up!
Yeah,
I said close your mouth and stop talking.
In contrast to the majority silent protagonists featured on this channel is Wesley Gibson, a protagonist who doesn't shut up. Which is funny, considering one of the levels is literally named, Shut the Fuck Up. It's not a quote in the level, it's not a theme of the level, there's just a level titled Shut the Fuck Up, and it makes me really, really mad, because I can't use profanity in my titles, or I absolutely would have a series titled Shit Tier that this game would fall into. And I have a reason to title it like that. They just had levels like Shut the Fuck Up and Clusterfuck for no other reason than they can. After Wesley wins himself, he gives us the tutorial. Now, why we are in a meat processing plant shooting corpses and soon-to-be corpses is a mystery. There is not an explanation for this that is contained on this physical disc. It's a physical disc, mind you, because this game wasn't sold digitally in 2009, and is becoming another one of those rare commodities that I cover on this channel. If only any of them were good, so that people would believe me when I say they're worth preserving. I'm going to say that it's canonical that Wesley just owns a warehouse full of kidnapped victims he may or may not have kidnapped for the express purposes of practicing his skills. Which is pretty pathetic as far as protagonists go. Sure, Soap McTavish had the training section before the real mission, but he didn't need to, and this is directly from the game.
I needed to know what it felt like to put a bullet in a body.
Needless to say, it's a bit jarring to be thrown headfirst into this. Both the movie this is adapting and the comic book the movie adapted started by establishing Wesley as a loser, who let his best friend fuck his girlfriend because he was one missed antidepressant away from calling the hotline for tips. It established the stakes of his character, that he hated his life, and was willing to do anything given the opportunity, even if it meant killing people. I'm going to establish some ground rules for this video. While it is an adaptation, I have 3 separate drafts that would all be 30-minute long videos that for various reasons didn't work as scripts. And it's been a very, very long time since I've had to go all the way back to the outline stage of writing. The core of the problem is that the video would get incredibly convoluted if I kept jumping between versions of Wanted. There's the 2003 comic book, which is terrible for myriad reasons. There's the 2008 movie, which honestly isn't that bad a movie, but I only watched like 4 a year, so I have no business rendering judgments either way. And there is this game. I believe the IP is in the hands of Netflix now, so I just can't wait for the Wanted TV show. If it's not established in the game, it's not canonical. That's the rule. I shouldn't have to keep calling back to the movie to understand what is happening. Which is going to suck for Weapons of Fate, considering the biggest problem it has as a narrative is its complicated relationship with its source material. On the one hand, the game is meant to accentuate the movie. It isn't the events of the movie turned into the game, it is its own independent story with reference to the movie. However, the movie is not dependent on the game, meaning that it isn't a symbiotic relationship like Enter the Matrix, but a parasitic one. Enter the Matrix could stand alone as a story, as could Matrix Reloaded. But the narrative was clearly structured in such a way that both stories could be put together by fans for a greater effect. Weapons of Fate is so clearly chasing the coattails of the movie as to be laughably pathetic. It makes reference to all the main characters, even the dead ones. It posthumously fills us in on character details the movie didn't have time for, and it raises a lot of questions you think the movie would answer, but doesn't. So if it doesn't make sense, I'll try to explain which parts require movie context, but still try to judge it on its merit as an independent story. Confused? Yeah, it's why I threw out 3 scripts prior to this one. The game proper starts with this. I can't explain what exactly makes Wesley's character look so uncanny at this particular moment. It's a toss-up between his doll-like eyes and the fact that the character is supposed to be waking up in a cold sweat. But the technology clearly isn't there to do that effect very well. Anyways, Wes's dad's apartment is being raided by the police. He's there 5 hours after having killed someone named Sloan. The problem is, we haven't been introduced to Sloan in the game yet. He's a major character in the movie, sure, and his assassination is the last scene of the movie, yes, but as a standalone title, the player has no way of knowing what the significance of this time frame is supposed to be. As for the police, they obviously aren't police considering they didn't sweep the apartment for Wesley first. They don't even seem that concerned. Wesley laments looking over a picture before the guys find a hidden document on the back. What is it? Well, without the movie, you wouldn't know. It's a kill order, but whose kill order it is isn't explained in the movie, despite apparently being a big deal for the game's story. I am glad that this is all clearing up. Wesley chases the guy across some rooftops until a final confrontation. Hey, Wesley, do that thing where you arc the trajectory of projectiles around obstacles. No? Oh, sorry, you earned that ability after killing the one guy in the game it actually makes sense to use it against. This starts the theme of cutscene Wesley stealing kills from the player. Say what you will about how Battlefield 3 ended, but at least you pressed the button that killed the villain in that QuickTime event, and at least you get to shoot Zakhaev in Modern Warfare. Right after stealing the kill, an ass and tits shows up to evaluate the situation. Wesley just leaves himself open to getting shot by her, which is another theme of the game. I think cutscene Wesley has a reaction time measured in seconds. But before either cunt could get shot, an old man flubs his shot and the girl escapes. That just kind of happened around us. Anyways, the old man explains that this is the Paris fraternity. Just play that nuking scene again. There we go. Anyways, this guy is a munitions specialist, but rather than being an NPC you buy weapons from, his primary function is to be the game's framing device and exposition machine.
Your destiny and theirs have been intertwined for decades.
Which is why they've only decided to manifest after the events of the movie. Then the game cuts back to the warehouse full of kidnap victims. Right, so these are actually flashbacks to the movie, sort of. There weren't any living people you trained against in the warehouse in the movie, so canonically, Wesley just keeps going back to this warehouse in between scenes. It is really jarring if you are like me and play this game first and have absolutely zero context about where this warehouse is or why the tutorial is there.
Soon you learn there is a whole load of shit you can do with just a gun.
No, there is not. You can shoot people. At no point is curving bullets used as a solution to a puzzle in this game. It is purely a mechanic that exists to kill people. So we cut to the next level at Mount St. Miller in 1984. This is a play on Mont St. Michel, but with Mark Miller's name. This famous historical landmark that millions of people visit annually is actually an abandoned, blown-out village that is a fraternity stronghold with hundreds of assassins living in it. Why this location was picked is another one of those big mysteries that envelops this game. Why you wouldn't set the Paris fraternity in Paris is definitely a good question. Whatever, because the 1984 part of that statement is the important part. Wesley is 24 years old in the movie, and the movie came out in 2008. Do the math. It definitely isn't a 1984 reference, that's just a coincidence. The level is named When the Water Broke, and is about Wesley's parents, Cross and Elise. Except Elise isn't pregnant, she already has a child. Elise was the pregnant lady who got shot that woke Wesley up in his cold sweat. Wes's father, Cross, was the main focus of the movie Wanted, so I guess it's a logical progression to have a story with the main focus on Wesley's mother. But it begs the question what blood relative the next story is supposed to cover, assuming it got made in Opposite World. Cross is our other protagonist. He isn't very smart, but he does keep quiet during gameplay, so not only is he the preferable playable character, he's also guaranteed to be the one that dies. So this is where I'd cut to the part of the game where he dies, but it happens off screen. Specifically, it happened in the movie, and since anything context related to the movie can't be included in the game, one of the game's playable characters just stopped showing up to work one day and didn't put any notice in. Anyways, Cross goes through the level trying to reunite with his lover Elise. It's kind of an escort quest, but you can't fail because she gets killed, and you don't have to stay with her to keep her moving, so it's not that bad. What is bad is that this is the first appearance of the turret section, sitting in a stationary position and hiding behind cover mowing down legions of enemies wasn't the highlight of Wanted, because it doesn't happen, so I'm not sure why it's here beyond they needed to fill the time. But don't worry, because as soon as you escape the mandatory turret section, you walk about 10 feet into a forced sniper section. Fuck.